The quantum distress signal, the Discovery. The Farpoint Observatory hung in the silent darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, a solitary sentinel watching the cosmic abyss. Inside its pressurized core, Dr. James Okonkwo stared at his monitor with growing disbelief. For 17 years, he had cataloged stellar phenomena, mapped distant galaxies, and tracked asteroid trajectories. Never once had he seen anything like this. The signal shouldn't exist. It violated every known principle of physics. Quantum data streamed across his screen in patterns that seemed to shift between dimensions, carrying information that registered simultaneously from multiple points in space. The computer struggled to process it, throwing error messages faster than James could dismiss them. "This is impossible," he whispered to the empty observation deck. His fingers flew across the keyboard, running diagnostic after diagnostic. Every test confirmed the same conclusion. The signal was real, it was intelligent, and it was desperate. James opened a channel to Earth. "Farpoint to Houston Control. Priority Alpha. I need immediate contact with the Planetary Defense Council." The response came within seconds, the usual bureaucratic delays abandoned. "Houston Control receiving. Dr. Okonkwo, what's the nature of your emergency?" "I've detected a signal. Not radio, not laser. It's quantum entanglement on a scale we've never achieved. Someone out there is screaming for help, and they're using technology that makes ours look like stone tools." 12 hours later, Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the emergency command center beneath Geneva, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. The signal played on the main screen, translated by Earth's most powerful computers into something approaching human language. "Ancient enemy. Consuming reality. Please, anyone, help." The room erupted in chaos. Some called it a hoax, others a trap. A few whispered prayers in languages from every corner of Earth. Elena raised her hand for silence, her military bearing commanding instant attention. "We need to respond," she said firmly. "Whatever this is, someone out there needs help. And if there's a threat large enough to terrify beings who can manipulate quantum space, we need to know about it." Commander Elena Vasquez's decision. Elena had spent 30 years in service, rising from a fighter pilot to commander of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Initiative. She had faced budget committees, political skeptics, and the endless challenges of preparing humanity for what might lurk beyond their small blue world. Now, staring at the impossible signal, she felt the weight of every decision she had ever made pressing down on her shoulders. "Commander," said General Alexander Petrov, his Russian accent thick with concern, "we have no idea what we're dealing with. This could be a Trojan horse, a way to lure us into danger. Or it could be legitimate," countered Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "We've always wondered if we were alone. Now we have our answer, and they need help." Elena turned to Dr. Okonkwo, who had been brought down from Farpoint. "James, in your professional opinion, is this signal genuine?" The astrophysicist nodded slowly. "The energy required to transmit quantum information across interstellar distances would require harnessing a star's output. No one wastes that kind of power on a deception. Whoever sent this is either desperate or dying, possibly both." Elena made her decision. "We respond. Prepare a message. Tell them Earth has received their call and humanity is listening." The reply came faster than physics should allow, appearing on their screens before the transmission could have possibly reached its destination. The beings on the other end were not bound by the speed of light. The crystalline visitors. 3 days later, something materialized in orbit around Earth. No warning, no gradual approach, just sudden existence where empty space had been moments before. The object was magnificent and terrifying, a structure that seemed carved from living diamond, pulsing with inner light that shifted through colors human eyes had never seen. Space stations scrambled to respond. Satellites adjusted their orbits and Earth's orbital defense platforms powered up. But the crystalline ship made no aggressive moves. Instead, it broadcast a simple message in perfect English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, and 24 other languages simultaneously. "We are the Luminari. We mean no harm. May we speak?" Elena authorized the communication, and for the first time in human history, humanity engaged in real-time conversation with an alien intelligence. The being that appeared on their screens was beautiful in an otherworldly way. Its body seemed composed of crystalline structures that caught and refracted light, creating cascading rainbows within its transparent form. 2 large eyes, deep as galaxies, regarded the humans with something that might have been hope. "I am Crystallis, Speaker for the Luminary Collective, it said, its voice like music played on glass instruments. We thank you for answering our call. We did not know if any would hear, if any would care. We heard, Elena replied. Tell us what threatens you. The crystal being dimmed, its light flickering with what might have been fear. They are called the Void Eaters in the old tongues, the Devourers in others. They existed before matter, before energy, before the laws that govern your reality. They have slept for billions of your years trapped in the spaces between dimensions, but now they wake and they hunger. The Void Eaters, the briefing that followed lasted 14 hours. The Luminary representative explained cosmic horrors that challenged human comprehension. The Void Eaters were not creatures in any conventional sense. They were absences, anti-existence itself given terrible purpose. Where they passed, stars blinked out, planets ceased to be, and the very fabric of space-time unraveled. Our civilization has stood for 3 million of your years, Crystallis continued. Projections showing vast crystalline cities spanning entire star systems. We have witnessed the rise and fall of countless species. We thought ourselves prepared for any threat. We were wrong. The projection changed, showing a region of space where nothing existed. Not empty space, but true nothingness. Reality simply stopped at jagged edges, as if existence itself had been torn away. This was the Chorus Cluster, home to 17 inhabited worlds and 12 billion souls. It took the Void Eaters 6 of your weeks to consume it all. Now they move toward the core of the galaxy, growing stronger with each star they devour. In your years, we estimate they will reach Earth in approximately 200 rotations around your sun. 200 years, breathed Sarah Mitchell. That's not much time on a cosmic scale. It is no time at all, Crystallis agreed. We have fought them for decades, throwing every weapon, every strategy against them. Nothing works. They adapt, they consume, they advance. We are losing this war. And when we fall, the Void Eaters will continue until all of reality is gone. Elena leaned forward. Why come to us? Humanity has barely left its own solar system. What could we possibly do that your 3-million-year-old civilization cannot? The crystalline being pulsed with colors that seem to convey complex emotions. Because you think differently. Our civilization evolved through logic and mathematics. We approach problems methodically, systematically. But in studying your species through your broadcasts, we have observed something remarkable. Humans are chaotic, unpredictable, creative in ways we cannot replicate. You see solutions where we see only equations. You have hope where we have calculations showing inevitable defeat. The being paused, its form shimmering. The Void Eaters consume all things, energy, matter, thought, even hope itself. But there is one thing they have never encountered. One variable that might change the equation. They have never faced humanity's stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. Humanity's response? The world transformed overnight. News of alien contact dominated every channel, every conversation. Religious leaders debated the theological implications. Scientists formed teams working around the clock. Politicians, for once, set aside their differences in the face of something greater than their petty disputes. But it was the ordinary people who surprised everyone. Within 24 hours of Crystallis's broadcast being made public, volunteer registration sites crashed from overwhelming traffic. Teachers, engineers, farmers, artists, soldiers, and students lined up to offer their skills, their lives, their determination to fight for a galaxy they had never seen. In Mumbai, a street vendor named Raj Patel sold everything he owned to fund a neighborhood initiative building supply drones. In São Paulo, a high school student named Maria Santos organized her entire school to learn quantum mechanics. In Lagos, an elderly mechanic named Kwame Ose modified his workshop to produce components for experimental weapons, working 18-hour days despite his age. Commander Elena Vasquez watched the global response with tears in her eyes. They're not just volunteering, she said to her staff. They're betting everything on a fight they might never see, for people they'll never meet in places they can't even imagine. General Petrov nodded, his usual stern expression softened. This is humanity at its best. When we stop fighting each other and face outward, there is nothing we cannot attempt. The United Earth Coalition formed within a week. A government structure that had taken 50 years of failed attempts suddenly coming together with unprecedented speed. Resources were pooled, knowledge was shared freely, and old enemies worked side by side. Russian engineers collaborated with American scientists. Chinese manufacturers coordinated with European designers. African ingenuity met Asian precision met American innovation. The luminari watched in amazement. "We have never seen a species unite so completely, so quickly," Chrystalis observed. "You transform from a divided world to a single purpose in less time than it takes our councils to reach consensus on basic matters." Elena smiled grimly. "We're good at that when we need to be. Now teach us everything you know about these Void Eaters. We're going to war." The volunteer fleet 6 months later, the first fleet prepared to depart. 50 ships hastily constructed using a combination of human engineering and luminary technology. They weren't pretty, these vessels. Human designers had nicknamed them flying junkyards, cobbled together from whatever materials could be gathered quickly. But they flew, they were armed, and they carried the hopes of 2 civilizations. The volunteer crews came from every nation, every background. Captain Yuki Tanaka, a commercial pilot from Tokyo, commanded the lead ship. Her crew included a philosophy professor from Cairo, a rancher from Texas, a programmer from Bangalore, and a chef from Paris who had once dreamed only of earning a Michelin star. "We're not soldiers," Yuki said during the departure ceremony broadcast to Earth and the luminary homeworlds. "We're not heroes. We're just people who saw a universe in danger and decided we couldn't stand by. If that makes us special, then every human is special, because any one of them would have done the same." Marcus Chen, a 32-year-old engineer from Singapore, checked his station aboard the ESS Defiance, the fleet's engineering support vessel. He had spent the last 6 months working with luminary scientists, trying to understand technology that seemed more like magic than machinery. In his quarters, a picture of his daughter smiled at him, a reminder of why he was risking everything. "For her future," he whispered, pressing his hand against the image. "For everyone's future." Journey into darkness. The journey to the front lines would take 3 months, even using the luminary's quantum slipstream drives. The fleet traveled through spaces between spaces, watching reality blur outside their viewports. Earth fell away behind them, a blue marble that shrank to a point and then vanished as they exceeded the speed of light in ways that didn't technically violate relativity. During the voyage, humans and luminary worked together, sharing knowledge and strategies. The crystalline beings taught humans to see energy patterns invisible to normal perception. Humans taught the luminary to think laterally, to question assumptions, to imagine impossible solutions. "You are very strange," Chrystalis told Elena during one planning session. "You acknowledge that you cannot defeat this enemy, yet you travel toward it anyway." Elena laughed, a sound that surprised the alien. "That's basically human history in a nutshell. We're really good at doing impossible things, especially when someone tells us we can't." As they approached the war zone, the fleet fell silent. Through the viewports, they could see it, the void, a massive absence spreading across space, consuming stars like a cancer. At its edges, reality flickered and died. And within that darkness, something ancient and hungry waited. Captain Tanaka opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Defiance Actual. I won't lie to you. Most of us probably won't make it home. The enemy we face is older than worlds, stronger than suns, but they've made one critical mistake. They woke up in a universe that contains humanity, and were too stubborn to know when we're beaten." She paused, looking at her crew, seeing their fear and their determination mingled together. "Let's show them what mortals can do when we stop accepting limitations. All ships, battle speed. It's time to fight for existence itself." The volunteer fleet accelerated toward the darkness, 50 fragile ships carrying the hopes of humanity and the luminary, rushing to challenge an enemy that had ended civilizations before Earth's sun had ignited. Behind them, across the vast gulf of space, Earth watched and waited. In homes and cities, in temples and laboratories, billions of humans held their breath. They had sent their best into the void. Now they could only hope that humanity's greatest strength, that stubborn refusal to accept defeat, would be enough. The war for reality itself had begun, and humanity had answered the call. When mortals challenged eternity arrival at the breach, the fleet emerged from quantum slipstream into a vision of cosmic horror. Captain Yuki Tanaka gripped her command chair as the viewscreen filled with insight that defied comprehension. The void stretched before them like a wound in the universe itself, a massive sphere of absolute nothingness that consumed everything it touched. At the edges, stars died in slow motion. Their light didn't simply vanish. It unraveled, peeling away in streams of disintegrating photons that spiraled into the darkness. Planets crumbled like sandcastles, their atoms forgetting how to hold together. Space itself seemed to scream, emitting radiation patterns that shouldn't exist as the fundamental forces of nature collapsed. "My God," whispered Chen Wei, the navigator, his face pale. "How do you fight something like that?" The Luminary battle group waited for them. Thousands of crystalline ships arrayed in defensive formations around a massive stellar forge, one of the last remaining structures in this doomed sector. The ships gleamed like scattered diamonds against the encroaching darkness, beautiful and fragile. Crystallis's voice crackled over the communication system. "Welcome to the front lines, humans. What you see before you is the end of all things. We have been holding this position for 3 months, but we lose ground every day. The Void Eaters do not tire, do not retreat, and cannot be killed by conventional means." Elena Vasquez, coordinating from the command ship ESS Defiance, studied the tactical displays. The data made no sense. Energy weapons passed through the void without effect. Missiles ceased to exist before reaching their targets. Even antimatter bombs simply vanished, their explosive potential erased as if they had never been. "Show me everything you've tried," Elena commanded. "Every weapon, every tactic, every failure. We need to understand what doesn't work before we can figure out what might." For the next 6 hours, the luminaries shared their combat data. 3 million years of military knowledge, countless battles against every imaginable threat, all rendered useless against an enemy that existed outside the rules of reality. The more Elena studied, the more impossible the situation appeared. But in the engine room of the Defiance, Marcus Chen stared at the same data with different eyes. While the military mind saw failure, he saw patterns. While strategists saw impossible odds, he saw variables that didn't quite add up. The impossible plan Marcus had always been good with puzzles. As a child in Singapore, he would take apart electronics just to understand how they worked. In university, he had earned 3 doctorates by age 28, driven by an insatiable curiosity about how things connected. Now surrounded by technology that violated every law of physics he had studied, his mind raced through possibilities others couldn't see. "It's not that they're invulnerable," he muttered to himself, pulling up holographic displays of the void's energy signature. "Nothing is truly invulnerable. There has to be a pattern, a frequency, something." Dr. Sarah Mitchell floated through the hatch, adjusting to the zero gravity of the engineering section. The xenobiologist had insisted on joining the fleet despite having no military experience. "Talking to yourself again, Marcus? Look at this." Marcus gestured to the cascading data streams. "The Luminari have been treating the Void Eaters as enemies to be destroyed. But what if we're thinking about this wrong? What if they're not creatures at all, but a phenomenon, like a fire or a storm?" Sarah moved closer, her scientific mind engaging with his logic. "Go on." Every attack the Luminary launched used force, energy, matter, physical impacts. But look here, he highlighted a section of the data. When the void consumes something, there's a microsecond lag, a tiny moment where reality reasserts itself before being overwhelmed. What if that's not a quirk? What if it's a weakness? He pulled up more readings, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. The universe doesn't want to stop existing. Reality itself fights back against the void, but it's not strong enough. We see it here, here, and here. Quantum fluctuations, probability spikes, tiny moments where existence pushes back. Sarah's eyes widened. "You're suggesting we don't attack the void directly. We strengthen reality around it." "Exactly. The Luminari think in terms of destruction, because that's how wars are won. But humans, we build things, we create. What if instead of trying to destroy the void, we make reality so strong in this region that the void can't advance?" Marcus opened a communication channel to the command deck. "Commander Vasquez, I need to speak with you and Crystallis immediately. I have an idea and you're both going to think I'm insane." 30 minutes later, Marcus stood before a hastily assembled council of human and luminary commanders, projecting his theory on the main display. The luminary representatives flickered with colors that indicated deep skepticism. "You propose to create a quantum resonance net," Crystallis said slowly, "to essentially reinforce the fabric of space-time itself. This has never been attempted on such a scale." "That's because you've never had humans helping you," Marcus replied with more confidence than he felt. "The luminary build with precision and logic. Humans build with determination and duct tape. Separately, neither approach works. But together?" Elena studied the calculations scrolling across her screen. The math was elegant, almost beautiful, but the scale was staggering. This would require every ship in both fleets working in perfect coordination. One mistake, one miscalculation, and we could tear a hole in space-time that makes the void look friendly. Yes, ma'am, Marcus agreed. But doing nothing guarantees we lose. This plan gives us a chance. General Petrov, commanding the military contingent, leaned forward. Even if this works, someone has to maintain the network from the center point, right at the edge of the void. The radiation alone would kill any crew in minutes. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what he wasn't saying. This plan required a sacrifice. I'll do it, Marcus said quietly. It's my design. I understand the harmonics better than anyone, and he paused, thinking of his daughter's picture in his quarters. There are worse things than dying to save a universe. Building the resonance net. The next 72 hours became a blur of frantic activity. Human engineers worked alongside luminary technicians, adapting ships and systems for purposes they were never designed for. The plan required converting every vessel into a node in a massive quantum network, each one broadcasting reality-reinforcing frequencies in perfect harmony. In the fabrication bays, welders worked in shifts that lasted until exhaustion forced them to stop. Raj Patel, the street vendor from Mumbai who had funded his neighborhood's initiative, found himself welding components on a luminary warship, his hands steady despite never having done such work before. My father was a metalworker, he explained to a curious crystalline engineer. He taught me that honest work done well is its own reward. Maria Santos, the high school student from São Paulo, had proved to have an intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics that impressed even the luminary scientists. She coordinated calculation teams, groups of humans and aliens working together to solve equations that would determine the resonance frequencies needed for the network. It's like music, she explained to Crystallis during one planning session. Each ship is an instrument. Alone they make noise. Together, in harmony, they create something beautiful, something powerful. Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out. Humans brought creativity and improvisation. The luminari provided technical knowledge and precision. Neither could succeed alone. But together they built something unprecedented. Captain Tanaka coordinated the positioning of ships, placing each vessel exactly where Marcus's calculations demanded. "This is insane," she muttered, watching her tactical display fill with complex geometric patterns. "We're basically trying to play a cosmic symphony while dodging the end of existence itself." "Insanity is what humans do best," replied her first officer, the philosophy professor from Cairo. "Socrates said that wisdom begins in wonder. We are about to attempt something that makes the ancient philosopher's wildest dreams look mundane." Elena moved through the fleet, visiting each ship, speaking with crews who knew they might not survive the coming battle. She found the chef from Paris, Antoine Rousseau, in the galley of the ESS Endeavour preparing what might be everyone's last meal. "Why did you volunteer?" Elena asked him. "You could have stayed on Earth, safe in your restaurant." Antoine smiled, stirring a pot of soup that somehow smelled like home despite being made from luminary ingredients. "Commander, I spent my life creating moments of joy through food. Small moments, yes, but important. Now I have a chance to preserve all the moments for everyone, forever. How could I not take it?" The void awakens on the fourth day. The network was ready, 50 human ships and 3,000 luminary vessels, all linked through quantum entanglement, all prepared to broadcast frequencies that would reinforce reality itself. Marcus Chen positioned his ship, the ESS Resonance, at the focal point, a mere 1,000 kilometers from the edge of the void. From this distance, the darkness was overwhelming. It didn't just block light. It absorbed hope, devoured possibility, erased potential. Marcus could feel it pressing against his mind, whispering that existence was temporary, that all things must end, that resistance was futile. "All ships report ready." Elena's voice came through his headset. "Marcus, you can still back out. We can try to automate the central node." "No," Marcus replied, his hands steady on the controls despite his fear. "The frequencies need real-time adjustment. A human touch, literally. This has to be me." He opened a final communication to Earth, a message that would take months to arrive. "To my daughter May, if you're hearing this, it means I didn't come home. I'm sorry I'll miss watching you grow up, miss your graduation, miss walking you down the aisle someday. But I want you to understand why I did this. Not because I'm a hero, but because I'm your father, and fathers protect their children. All children. Everywhere. He closed the channel and activated the resonance array. All ships, this is Chen. Beginning frequency generation in 3, 2, 1, mark. The network came alive. From every ship, carefully calibrated quantum frequencies poured forth. Waves of reality-reinforcing energy that wove together into a shimmering net of pure existence. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Where the frequencies overlapped, space itself became visibly stronger, glowing with soft light as the fundamental forces of nature amplified. But the void noticed. For billions of years, the Void Eaters had consumed without resistance, erasing reality with the casual ease of wind-dispersing smoke. Now suddenly something pushed back. Something resisted. Something dared to say no to the end of all things. The darkness convulsed. From within the absence, something emerged. Not a creature, not in any sense that mortal minds could comprehend, but a manifestation of hunger given terrible form. It was every nightmare, every fear, every dread of oblivion made manifest. The entity, if it could be called that, reached toward the resonance net with appendages of unreality. Where they touched the network, ships screamed as their hulls remembered they were just atoms that could come apart. Crews felt their thoughts beginning to unravel, their memories questioning if they had ever truly existed. Hold formation, Captain Tanaka's voice cut through the rising panic. Every ship holds. We don't need to win forever, just long enough. The luminary vessels designed for this kind of cosmic horror maintained their positions, but several human ships began to drift, their crews overwhelmed by the existential dread radiating from the void entity. Sacrifice and courage. In the galley of the ESS Endeavour, Antoine Rousseau felt reality beginning to question itself. His hands looked strange, as if they might not be his hands, might never have been anyone's hands. The soup he had been preparing shimmered uncertainly, the atoms forgetting what soup was supposed to be. No, Antoine said firmly, gripping the counter. No, I am real. This soup is real. The people I feed are real. You cannot take that from us. He began to hum, an old French lullaby his grandmother had taught him. Around him, the crew of the Endeavour heard the melody and joined in, their voices creating a tiny bubble of stubborn human persistence. The reality around them stabilized, reinforced not by technology but by sheer determination. Across the fleet, similar acts of defiance played out. Raj Patel welded frantically, the familiar rhythm of his work anchoring him to reality. Maria Santos recited mathematical proofs, the logic of numbers reminding the universe that rules existed and must be obeyed. In 1,000 different ways, humans and Luminari together declared that existence mattered, that they mattered, that hope was not a lie to be erased. But at the center of the resonance net, Marcus Chen bore the full weight of the void's attention. His ship groaned as reality flickered around him. The control panels questioned whether they were control panels. The air wondered if it was supposed to be air. Marcus's hands moved across the controls, adjusting frequencies in real time, maintaining the harmony of the network even as his own existence threatened to unravel. He thought of May, of her laugh, of the way she would scrunch up her nose when concentrating on homework. Those memories were real. They had happened. Nothing, not even the end of existence itself, could erase that. You want to know the problem with trying to erase humanity? Marcus spoke through gritted teeth, blood running from his nose as the strain of maintaining the network pushed his body beyond its limits. We remember. We create, we love, and those things, those small, fragile, beautiful things, they're stronger than your hunger. The void entity pressed harder, its unreality clawing at Marcus's ship. Systems failed. Hull plating began to dissolve. Marcus could feel his body starting to forget how to hold together. But he held the frequencies steady. The resonance wave, he's failing. Elena watched the readouts from the Defiance, seeing Marcus's life signs dropping toward critical levels. We need to collapse the network now before we lose him. Wait, Crystalis said, the luminary's crystalline form pulsing with sudden realization. Look at the void's energy signature. It's changing. The resonance frequencies aren't just reinforcing reality. They're teaching it how to fight back. On the tactical display, a remarkable transformation was occurring. Where the resonance net pressed against the void, reality didn't just hold firm. It pushed back. Quantum fluctuations intensified, probability waves surged, and the fundamental forces of nature remembered their strength. Increase all frequencies by 0.3%, Marcus's voice came over the channel, weak but determined. "Trust me, we're almost there." Every ship in the fleet amplified their broadcasts. The resonance net blazed brighter, a web of pure existence that sang with the combined determination of two civilizations. Human creativity merged with luminary precision, creating harmonics that had never existed before in the history of the universe. The void entity writhed, its unreality flickering as it encountered something it had never faced in billions of years of existence. Resistance that grew stronger the more it was challenged. Hope that refused to die. Life that insisted on continuing. And then, in a moment that would be studied by scientists for generations, the impossible happened. The resonance frequencies reached critical harmony, and reality itself remembered something it had forgotten. The universe had existed before the Void Eaters. It would exist after them, and it was tired of being pushed around. From every star in the surrounding sectors, from every planet, from every atom of matter, a response came. The universe joined the resonance, adding its voice to the song of existence. The quantum net exploded outward, a wave of pure reality that didn't destroy the void but rather refused to let it exist. The void entity didn't scream. Screaming implied existence, and existence was exactly what the reality wave denied it. It simply ceased, unwritten from the fabric of space-time, erased not by force, but by the collective insistence of a universe that had decided to keep existing. The darkness that had consumed stars and ended civilizations pulled back, retreating into the spaces between dimensions where it had slumbered before. And as it retreated, something remarkable happened. The stars it had consumed flickered back into existence, not restored but remembered. Reality filled in the gaps, the universe refusing to accept that those stars had ever been gone. A new dawn in the command center of the Defiance. Alarms blared as the resonance net collapsed. Its purpose fulfilled. Elena pulled up Marcus's life signs and felt her heart sink. His ship drifted dark and silent at the center of where the void had been. "Get a recovery team out there now," she ordered. The rescue ship reached the ESS resonance within minutes. They found Marcus slumped over his controls, barely breathing, his body pushed far beyond any safe limits. But he was alive, and as the medics carried him away, he managed a weak smile. "Did it work?" he whispered. "It worked," the rescue team leader replied, tears streaming down her face. "You stubborn fool, it actually worked." The weeks that followed brought jubilation and sorrow in equal measure. The immediate threat had been contained, the Void Eaters driven back into their dimensional prisons. But the cost had been heavy. 17 human ships lost, their crews choosing to maintain their positions even as reality fractured around them. Thousands of luminary vessels damaged or destroyed, and countless individuals pushed to their breaking points, changed forever by what they had witnessed and endured. But they had won. Humanity and the Luminary together had achieved what should have been impossible. They had looked at the end of existence and said, "Not today." Marcus Chen recovered slowly, his body and mind scarred by the ordeal. When he was finally well enough to receive visitors, he found his quarters filled with messages from across human and luminary space. Children drew pictures of the brave engineer who saved the universe. Scientists begged to study his innovations. Strangers thanked him for giving them a future. But the message he treasured most was a simple video from Earth, showing his daughter May in their small apartment, holding up a sign that read, "My dad is a hero." Elena visited him on his third week of recovery, finding him staring out the viewport at the restored sector of space where the battle had occurred. Stars twinkled peacefully, showing no sign of the cosmic horror that had almost consumed them. "How do you feel?" Elena asked. Marcus considered the question. "Tired, scared, grateful." He paused. "Humanity always wondered what we'd do when we finally met aliens. Would we fight? Would we trade? Would we even recognize each other as intelligent beings? And now we know," Elena said softly. "We help. Even when it's impossible, even when it costs everything, we help." "Not just us," Marcus corrected. "The Luminary fought beside us every step of the way. They could have fled, preserved their civilization somewhere else in the galaxy, but they stayed. They fought. They risked everything for a chance to save all existence, including races they'd never met." On the main view screen, a communication request came through from Crystallis. The Luminary leader's crystalline form shimmered with colors that the humans had learned meant deep emotion. "Humanity, on behalf of the Luminary Collective and all civilizations we represent, we thank you. You answered our call when you had no reason to. risked everything for beings you had just met, and showed us that intelligence and compassion are not bound by form or origin. The crystalline being paused, seeming to gather itself. We have voted unanimously to extend an invitation. Humanity, we would welcome you to join the Galactic Coalition, not as junior partners, not as newcomers to be educated, but as equals, as friends, as the species that taught us that sometimes the youngest voices speak the greatest wisdom. Elena felt the weight of the moment. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's place in the cosmos for generations to come. She thought of Antoine Rousseau making soup during the end of the world, of Raj Patel welding with steady hands, of Maria Santos seeing quantum mechanics as music, of Marcus Chen refusing to let reality unravel. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, Elena said clearly, we accept, not because we seek power or prestige, but because we've learned something important these past months. We're stronger together, human and luminary, creativity and precision, chaos and order. The universe is better when different voices harmonize. In cities across Earth, people celebrated. In crystalline spires across luminary space, beings of living light pulsed with joy. And in the vast darkness between stars, the Void Eaters remained imprisoned, held back not by force but by something they could never understand or overcome. The stubborn, beautiful, impossible determination of life to continue existing. Marcus Chen looked out at the stars and smiled. His daughter would grow up in a universe that contained wonders beyond imagination, allies among the stars and proof that when existence itself called for help, humanity would always answer. The galaxy had called and humanity had responded, not with weapons or conquest but with courage, creativity, and an unwavering belief that the impossible was just another challenge to overcome. It was, Captain Tanaka would later write in her memoirs, the most human thing they had ever done,